Hi Elvis fans, Tom Brown here, your host of Gates of Graceland. This edition, something very special. You might recognize where I am. I'm sitting in the Jungle Room, right off the kitchen in the Jungle Room. And with me, Director of Archives, Angie Marchese. Welcome back.
Hi, Tom.
Good to see you again.
Thanks for having me back.
Thank you. And here we are in the Jungle Room, and this year, 2016, we celebrate an anniversary.
Yes.
Of something that happened here in the Jungle Room that's legendary. And you know there must be something involved because we have our archival gloves on.
Well, we're going to talk about the Jungle Room sessions.
Yes.
So we're going back to February and October of 1976 in this very room and the history that was made here.
Yeah.
And those historic recordings that happened right here, right where we're sitting.
I was going to say, where we have our chairs is basically under this green light is where, I'm sure he had some kind of spotlight done, is where Elvis stood for the vocals.
Yes, this was his stage.
Yeah.
Yes, and then the RCA truck was parked outside the window. They put blankets on the walls. Of course, the carpeting on the ceiling made this room ideal already for recording because of the acoustic value of it. They didn't have the waterfall running at the time, you know, but pushed everything out of the way, brought in the musicians, and then all Elvis had to do was come from upstairs down here. And
yeah, the story is, you know, Elvis would leave Graceland and drive over on Interstate 40 to Nashville to cut at RCA Studio B. And by this time in 76, he's like, nah, I don't really feel like going to Nashville. And they say, that's okay, we'll bring the studio to you.
Yes, and you know, they were hoping to get, 20 tracks at the time, if I'm thinking right. You know, Felton was really having a lot of goals for this sessions. But I think my favorite part of the story is in the process of bringing the studio here, what happened to the RCA mobile studio truck on the way here.
Broke down, according to Ernst Jorgensen's book, Elvis Day by Day, broke down about 130 miles away from Memphis and has to get towed through the gates of Graceland into the back.
Can you imagine an iconic moment like that? You're being able to drive up the front driveway of Graceland and you had to come by a tow truck.
Yeah. Now, this album came out in the summer of 76 and I was 16 years old. And this is one of I love 70s Elvis. I'm a big 70s Elvis fan because that was the Elvis I knew. I was buying records in the 70s and coming to Memphis to see him in concert. And this album, recorded here at the Jungle Room from Elvis Presley Boulevard, Memphis, Tennessee, and it comes out in the summer of 76. And even as a 16-year-old, I'm listening to these songs and they're all kind of have a theme to them. And even at 16 years old, I kind of noticed where Elvis's mind must have been at the time.
Exactly. I mean, the sessions are so iconic, and him being in his house and being comfortable, in his environment. But he was going through a lot. And the session really, the songs they were singing and the choices he was making at the time really had that whole tone that, he was going through something. And the music, like with everyone's music, you express yourself, with what's going on in your life, what you know and what's happening. And at that point in time, the music that Elvis was producing was exactly what he was going through.
Yeah. Songs, by Larry Gatlin, Jerry Chestnut, Neil Sedaka. I mean, all those songs that he cut on the Elvis Presley album, and then later in the year they cut some more that were included on Moody Blue, which is a little more upbeat.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, and since I saw you with your archival box over there, and we have our archival gloves on, Elvis was a fan of so much different kind of music, and as a kid hearing those songs on the Elvis Presley Boulevard album, I didn't realize a lot of them were cover songs that other artists had done. And you've found evidence of Elvis's love of this music earlier in his life.
Actually, yes, because I pulled a couple of the records from Elvis's collection of songs that are actually on these albums. Probably one of the earliest ones I have here is this 1967 45 by Tom Jones.
On the Parrot label.
On the Parrot label.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's You'll Never Fall in Love Again, which Elvis recorded right here in this room. Again, Never Falling in Love Again, Hurt, Solitaire. Just the
bitter they are, the harder they fall.
Yeah. There's a theme going on with all of this music. The other thing that I brought is one of Elvis's, I guess you could say, major influences, or one of the people that he actually loved to listen to, and that's Roy Hamilton.
Right.
And probably my favorite song to come from the Jungle Room sessions was actually a Roy Hamilton song, and it was Hurt.
That is one of the most iconic later Elvis songs, and I think of all the songs recorded in the Jungle Room, that was the one that you said, yep, the voice was still there.
Yes.
It was so powerful.
It was very strong. I mean, no matter if he was in other songs having troubles with different keys and wanting to do things in different keys and things, when Hurt came along, he nailed it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it actually is track 6.
This is Elvis's copy.
Elvis's copy of Roy Hamilton's Hurt.
And Hurt. Wow. Look at that. This is why we wear the white gloves. And you were talking before to me that Elvis's love of music, so many different, even on this album, so many different kinds of songs. Roger Whittaker, you know, an English singer with The Last Farewell, which sounds like a whaling song, like he's going off to sea.
Yes.
And then, you know, Bitter They Are, the Harder They Fall, the Larry Gatlin song. And then there's a line in one of the songs, you know, a man so busy going up in the world that he couldn't see love
coming down.
I mean, wow. It just sends chills
Very
through you when you think about, you know, what he was going through. And, you know, one of the things we were talking about when we were talking about the RCA truck, you know what we've got in the archives here at Graceland? They have an interview with Mike Moran, who was a recording engineer inside the RCA truck parked out here in back of the Jungle Room. Let's see what Mike had to say about what was going on here at Graceland.
I'm Mike Moran. My job is I'm a master recording engineer at the time for RCA Records. And my job was to get together, the session together, and all the sound that we needed for Elvis to work with. Now, this is the first time I saw the Jungle Room with furniture in it. There was nothing in it. We just set up a whole studio in there for the drums, the chorus, the whole rhythm section, piano, and Elvis, all around the room. You know, a little separation here and there, but that's how we set up the room. No furniture at all in it. Elvis stood just in front of the kitchen, the entrance to the kitchen there. The band was ready by 9 p.m., but Elvis wouldn't be. He'd come in, but it was best because we got the sound of the band first, anyhow. And then when Elvis came in, he was ready to start on a song right away with one rehearsal or something, and it would be about midnight. But then he got into it and he started, and he was in a good mood, you know, and joking around. And every session he'd start off at the piano and the whole group singing gospel. That's how they warmed up, the voices and everything. And then we'd start recording and work till the wee hours. And we were on the remote truck right outside the door, but we had a TV camera inside so we could watch what was going on. They weren't even going to let us use the TV camera, but we just needed it to see who was doing what, you know, and things. So, and he even came on the truck and he says, "Oh, you can see me in there."
It was Mike Moran, who was a recording engineer in the RCA truck parked out in back of the Jungle Room for the Jungle Room sessions. And, you know, some of the music that he heard in the truck, that was before it was all mixed. Felton would take it back to Nashville and add strings and other voices to it. So, you know, Elvis is in here with James Burton and Norbert Putnam and Glenn D and David Briggs and all those musicians. And then Felton would take it back to Nashville and add all the stuff to it, you know, to really polish it.
Exactly.
So, and then somehow that would get to Elvis?
Yeah, what would happen is that Elvis would receive recording references so that he could listen to it and basically give his blessing. And so I brought a few from this iconic sessions. The first one we have is for Hurt.
Wow! So this is the one Elvis would have played upstairs
in his room,
in his room, in his office, and listened to, and said, "Yeah, that mix is okay.
That's what I like." Yep. You know. And then on the back of that one, we have For the Heart.
For the Heart. Yep.
And then this one is She Thinks I Still Care, with a flip side of Mood Blue.
Mood Blue.
Instead of Moody Blue, but Mood Blue. So these are Elvis's actual references that he would listen to.
And it even says on the label there, reference recording, RCA reference recording. Wow.
Yeah. But just imagine to be Mike and being in the truck and hearing all of the music in the raw. You could really hear the power of Elvis's voice, especially when he was recording such songs as Hurt,
Yeah.
as She Thinks I Still.
And I don't want to overemphasize, where Elvis was mentally too, because when you listen to the Jungle Room sessions, which is the FTD release with a lot of the raw tape there's a lot of fun that was going on.
Oh, there was a whole lot of fun. I mean, the telephone ringing.
Yeah, that telephone probably right over there.
Right around the corner there
Yeah.
was ringing. There was a lot of fun that happened. It was also during those sessions that the famous Elvis gave people shirts out of his closet session happened that everyone talks about. It's like, oh yeah, that happened, So they did. They had a good time. Lisa talks about it sometimes because she was here. She remembers those sessions happening, So the house was alive. There was a whole lot of music going on. There was a lot of fun going on, And they also had to get serious and get some work done as well.
Yeah.
So,
but all these years later, as the fans come through the mansion and look into this room and imagine what happened here, this room still has had music in it.
Yes, it has. I mean, I think that's what's so amazing about this room is because, Elvis was the first one to record in here. The last one to record in here was Lisa. And in between Lisa and Elvis, we've had everyone from John Cougar Mellencamp who's recorded in here to Kid Rock. So the room itself is still very much alive with music, and it still has that vibe that what Elvis loved about recording here, and what all of these other artists who have recorded here have come away with is that it is just it's a place to be, it's a moment in time, and to be able to stand here and record in the same spot that Elvis Presley did, it's quite amazing.
All different kinds of music come together and want to do that. And I also want to say something because we had a moment in a previous Gates of Graceland, in a hidden Graceland, that we found in Elvis's stereo a 45 to the song Feelings by Morris Albert, which is a huge hit, gigantic hit in the 70s. And our research has found, in Ernst Jorgensen's great book, has found that Elvis worked in the Jungle Room one night for hours on a recording of Feelings by Morris Albert. So that must have been, much like these were reference records for Elvis, Elvis must have had the stereo on and been listening to
That's what
that
they would
45.
listen to, before they would record a song, like with the Roy Hamilton album and things like that. They would put on the reference music, and that's what they were listening to. And we found that 45. It's still in there, by the way.
It is, yes.
And, I think that the funny part of that story is that he worked on it for hours, didn't like any of the takes, and had them record over it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
The only thing that we have proof of is the story behind it and the fact that that 45 is still sitting back there.
That's right. And this album, again, from Elvis Presley Boulevard, Memphis, Tennessee, and then also songs from the Jungle Room were on the Moody Blue album. Angie, we want to thank you so much for bringing us down from the archives all these incredible stories and these amazing possessions of Elvis, and it just feels like these should be back in this room.
Yes.
This music on these grooves came from this room, and they're back now. And thank you for bringing this down to us. And please go out, and I know right now you're going to turn this off and you're going to go listen to Elvis Presley Boulevard and Moody Blue, right?
Yes. That's what I'm going to go listen to.
That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. I'm going to start out with For the Heart, and then I'm going to go to Hurt. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody, thanks for joining us on the Gates of Graceland. I'm Tom Brown. That's Angie Marchese, and we'll see you back real soon.
Bye.